Now that's Peter, not Parker, except he lives in a web of lies, so maybe he could be. Peter is tall, handsome, definitely not dark, but he still gets the ladies. For clarity, you can ask women what that prototype looks like, cause God knows they only use it on any guy they actually like. But Peter is your typical ass face. He lives in New York, in an empty house, with an emptier soul, but always seems to have women coming through. So I guess something comes in that house. And that's Debbie. She lives on the West Coast, she's great at poker, she loves kids, loves a kid above all, because anyone will drop that kid in a ditch with the amount of allergies he has. Debbie is a dreamer. Well, at least that's the story she doesn't want to tell herself. She's a practical dreamer, an oxymoron, maybe just a moron in some sense, but she is brilliant and loves reading books. Now, Peter and Debbie consummated their relationship at a poker game. Peter was this confident loser, and Debbie was this humble winner. You see where this is going, right? Peter won after the game he lost, when he got Debbie to take her clothes off.
You don't have to say any of this. I'm gonna sleep with you anyway.
I mean, wow. Just wow. I guess when you are on a knowable piece of the world is your oyster. But for someone with a lot of confidence, Peter was scared of earthquakes. Weird, right? I mean, you wait. You'll be amazed at the earthquake metaphor. But that was it. He was so scared of earthquakes, he moved from Los Angeles to the Big Apple. Peter could be referred to as a rolling stone with no moss. Peter never did anything long term. It always ended before it started. The movie was quite deceptive in its opening scenes. Here we thought Peter and Debbie hooked up, and they have been married for 20 years. But 20 years later actually meant 20 years of friendship. It was after the split screen that we saw that. Peter had one of his ongoing "we don't know who we are" hookup ladies in his bed. But the hookup lady thought it was weird that she was naked in his bed and he was talking to someone else the whole morning, which led to the greatest philosophical question. Let's take a breath.
Peter.
Yes.
What happens next? Look, if this is a waste of my time, I just want to know.
Oh, Cynthia. Let's use that. I don't remember her name. This is Peter's reply. Give me a second. I want to play it, so like you can tell how ridiculous this sounds.
Define waste.
Cynthia was pretty calm, but let's give Cynthia a personality. Really, dude? I mean, if you don't like me, that's fine. But asking me to define a word I have no place defining is insane. She took Peter's Uber as a screw you, which she couldn't care less. Peter went by, walking on the streets of New York unfazed. Peter was really that guy. Let's see where the sun takes us. Peter had a long day ahead. I could feel it. I mean, it makes sense. When someone you've been dating, just whatever you call what he was doing, drops what's next, it's already going to be a busy day. But business partners too? Peter was in that meeting, thinking, what the heck is going on in my life? Peter was left all alone in this world. I mean, the nightlight expressed how lonely he was, but his loneliness was interrupted by a text from Debbie. Debbie was supposed to arrive in New York to finish her course in something practical, which is what led to his breakup with Cynthia. But the help to watch his allergic son build. She had to go to Canada to be a supporting cast for a movie where she literally had one line and was trying to be killed by the protagonist. Debbie was so fumingly understanding. I mean, you couldn't even tell. Somehow, someone was doing what she always wanted to do, which she had convinced herself wasn't worth it, and what was failing miserably. This is how I knew her son was a dirtbag, or at least that's what she thought.
Yeah, and that's just why you have to be careful and you have to be cautious all of the time.
Did she just admit having a kid was a mistake in front of her kid? I cannot be the only one who caught that. But let's get back to the main story, Debbie and Peter. For the first time, Peter was selfless. He had absolutely nothing to do, which makes it seem like he was doing something before. He wasn't. But he realized how supportive Debbie had been for the past 20 years of their lives, and this is the least he could do. Debbie could not thank him enough, and we see them switch sides. Debbie in New York, Peter back in Los Angeles. Debbie was going to be fine. If she could deal with that kid, there's nothing in this world she could not accomplish. Peter was in for the time of his life. These are the amount of things the kid was allergic to. You get it now, right? Allergic son. Let me show you how bad.
Yeah, can't play basketball because I'm allergic to the gym. And I can't play baseball because I'm allergic to grass.
Who gets allergic to grass? I mean, seriously. I never would have guessed that. But Peter kind of made taking care of a child look easy peasy. What he could not do, he could afford. Peter made sure the kid ate, always dropped him at school, and achieved his full potential. This is where we got to know Peter a little more. Apparently, Peter's dad left when he was just 13 years old. Debbie's son was 13 years old. Debbie's hookup son was also 13, not there yet. But Debbie and Peter had their lionship for 20 years, which kind of defeats the point. Peter's dad was a deadbeat who literally died in a ditch from drinking too much. So basically, we had two dirt bags in a Porsche. Great. Peter consciously vowed to himself not to take chances on anything that could have meaning, in this case a family, while subconsciously, all he could think about was being in one. In fact, Debbie's kid praised him for not being terrible with kids, to which he had this smirk of achievement. But that smirk was turned off so fast when he got a notification on his phone from his house in New York, camera activated, only to see Debbie continuing the tradition of his Airbnb. Reaction? Priceless. Debbie was having the time of her life in New York. She was a little tense about leaving her kid behind, but for a week, she embraced New York. She arrived safely, but her suitcase did not arrive sound. Use a four-wheeler for God's sake. How old school can we be? She got into Peter's apartment, and what a beautiful view she had. One she could only imagine in the books she read. But her fascination was interrupted by Minka. Now Minka was just Minka. She knew who she was. She came in bold and naked. She just found out Peter broke up with the most recent hookup girl and was coming to take her place. So here she was. But she ended up bonding with Debbie, who she referred to as a Gen X Barbie. Like that's an insult. Although that's exactly what Debbie looked like, with her relentless denim jean skirts. Debbie was there for a purpose, and she wasn't going to let anything stand in her way. Her practical class on accounting started early the next day, so Minka had to find another way too. Let's call it relaxed this time. Debbie went to her class super excited. She came in with a pencil and a notebook to take notes on statistical modeling. She really did. Let me show you. Now I don't know who this woman was, but she wasn't feeling Debbie. She was there to make money, not friends. At least that's what her face looked like. But in the midst of this practicality, Debbie caught a glimpse of the life she could only dream of. She listened and connected to a professor who was speaking on literature. Her face lit up like she was in the midst of something divine. But Minka couldn't help herself. She was here to make Debbie's stay in New York pleasing. She was a selfless human being. Not that she wanted to know why Peter was an emotionally unavailable brat. Oh no, far from that. She took Debbie to this amazing club after her class. Sipping and whining and not talking about Peter, Debbie recognized the professor from the literature class sitting with one of, if not the most prestigious editors from the Duncan Press. Minka doing everything she can to make sure Debbie was not competition, made sure they approached to initiate a conversation. Debbie already knew who the editor was, and he was impressed by her. She had read every book they had published. He could not believe it. Neither could I. You would think someone with a kid with like 1,000 allergies will not have any time for books. But she did. And Nico, or Theo, let's go with Nico, kept staring at her with those colorful eyes. His pants were on fire, although we couldn't see it. But you get the point. Minka couldn't be more excited. Her selfless ways paid off. Minka did not only help Debbie get to know new people, she also helped her get to know Peter more. Her plan of helping Debbie was working in reverse. We really do find our destinies on the path of avoidance. She got to know about the script Peter wrote, secretly stored in an oven. She was totally shocked. We tell each other everything, she said. Why wouldn't he tell me about this? You mean why would you lie to the people you love? Oh, Debbie. She walked back and forth, pacing all over the apartment with a script in her hand, standing between the lines of privacy and respect for their relationship. She finally decided to give in to her base desires and devour the book. It was a masterpiece, a piece that she could not hold on to and wanted to share with the world. She took it to the only person she knew could help him, and Nico was more than pleased. Maybe this could help him get closer to the peace he wanted. Nico was more than happy to have the book published and wanted to talk more over dinner. Perfect disguise. He definitely did not want to talk about his love for the book, and Debbie totally understood that. She was dressed in this amazing black dress. Shout out to Minka, who kept trying, really trying. Maybe if Debbie was out of Peter's life, he would really have no options. Nico's eyes lit up when he saw Debbie walk to the table. This story was being written right in front of his eyes, probably better than most of the stories he'd published. Debbie was charming, weird, and quirky, but that was what made her attractive. She was different, somewhat ignorant, and pure, for lack of a better word, and Nico took full advantage. He did a lot of publishing that night. He felt accomplished. Let's rewind a little. You remember Peter's reaction to this very occasion? Let's replay it. This very incident reverted Peter back to his old ways. He wanted to regain his confidence. If Debbie, who wasn't getting any action, was now doing so, he needs to get back on the horse. Who creates these sayings, man? Anyway, Peter went to a bar and called a beautiful woman to join him. He knew exactly why he called her. They were building enough tension in the conversation that she wanted to take him home.
A few moments later,
Peter was back home talking to Debbie's friend, who he called to babysit while he went to get his rocks off. Debbie's friend was funny. She was absolutely hilarious. Her aura was endearing. You could say anything to her. For the first time in 20 years, Peter had to tell someone how he really felt about Debbie. Wow, 20 years. Love really conquers all. But Debbie had no idea. She was living her oblivious life in New York with her new bestie Minka. Nico had invited Debbie for a second date, and she was looking for something to wear. In her search, she found another hidden brown envelope that was very similar to the script in the oven, but this time, she realized it was filled with something else. This sneaky little bastard. They acted like they were never going to open it.
Blah, blah, blah.
And they finally did. They found out Peter had a heart after all. He was keeping mementos of everything he shared with Debbie. Minka, in her selflessness, now realized why Peter could never fall in love with her. She was amazing, so it couldn't be her fault. And now that she knew, she urged Debbie to tell Peter how she felt about him. But she was in denial. She said she doesn't want to ruin whatever friendship they had. Women will lie to themselves when they are scared to do something. It's crazy. Well, something crazy happened. You know how I said Peter had figured out taking care of a child? It turns out not totally. Peter made Debbie's kid try new adventures. They were having the time of their lives, to the point where the kid asked Peter,
So, what happens next?
At this point, that question should be part of Peter's full name. Peter was amazed. Debbie's kid wanted them together as a family. His face was like, dude, I wish I knew how any of this works. Debbie's kid reacted to his facial expression with another question.
You look like you just felt an earthquake or something.
So your mama is the earthquake. Debbie really did quake his life to move from one side of the world to the other. But Debbie wasn't done. She was quaking Nico's life on the East Coast as well. Nico was falling hard after their one time. 20 years and she still got it. Nico offered her a relationship and a job in another prestigious publication. She was in awe, but she had to tell Nico the truth. She had fallen in love with another man. It's not her fault. She just found out. You know when you start thinking of someone highly and they do something shady? As part of their adventures, Peter made Debbie's kid try out for the hockey team, and it turns out the kid was pretty good, but he ended up getting injured badly, and Debbie received a call from Peter on her date. She was exhaustively upset with Peter. You would think it's because he hurt her child. Oh no, let's say partly. She just found out she's in love with a man, so now she has to think less likely of him to make herself feel justified in not really sharing her feelings. Debbie's son praised Peter for being the amazing dad he never had, but Debbie wanted Peter to leave. Minka helped pack her things as she left New York for good. Peter and Debbie met at the airport, Debbie coming into LA, Peter leaving, and they made a scene. It really looked like two people in love. For the first time, they were telling each other the truth, the whole truth, in the most annoying way. Peter, about to leave without telling Debbie how he felt after 20 years, was still crazy to me. Debbie dropped the poker chip she took from his place and decided to have the tough conversation, Minka's voice ringing in her head. You had this all these years. Peter deflected. You were going through my things? Debbie asked Peter, are you in love with me? I am madly and overwhelmingly in love with you, Peter replied. Peter finally decided no more friendship and started kissing Debbie passionately, lifting her up into his tender arms. They held hands while they left the LA airport. and the producers just couldn't help themselves.
So what happens next?
But for the first time in Peter's life, he knew how to answer that question without saying anything. And so they lived happily ever after, 2 dirtbags and a Quaker.